Here are 6 running lessons that I learned in 2024. And as we approach the end of the year with just a couple of races left, I thought it'd be a good time to sit down and reflect back from January through to now, see what's gone right, what's gone wrong, and share them with you guys. Now, of course, the general fundamentals of our running stay the same year on year, but there are occasional light bulb moments that we have throughout the year or throughout the period of a training block that make us go, do you know what? That's been really good for me, this training block. I might continue to do that moving forward, or oh, that wasn't quite so good. I might ditch that moving forward. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Let's jump in. And the first one is nearly staying injury-free all year. I say nearly because we're still a couple of months away from the end of the year, but it's been nearly 3 years since my last major injury. 18th of December 2021, I believe. I was doing a 3 by 10-minute workout and I sacked off the cool down because my calf went super tight. I thought it just tightened up. Actually, I seem to have done a little bit more damage than I thought. I took 2 weeks off, tried to come back with a walk run strategy for that week, realized that it just wasn't healing up, took another week off, and then had a more successful walk run back into things. And since then, bar the odd niggle here and there where I might have taken a couple of days off, I've not had anything major, touch wood, and you know that I'm about to get an injury having said that, but fingers crossed we won't. And yes, it's been a really long time and I'm very grateful for that. And that moment triggered more of the massage gun and more of the foam rolling and more of the spiky ball work, and that was basically keeping my muscles a lot looser than I ever used to. Of course, a lot of injuries tend to come from tight muscles, so us maybe finishing a workout, finishing a run, feeling a bit tight, a bit sore here and there, but really then not doing anything about it, just kind of sitting down at a desk all day or cracking on with work, cracking on at home, waking up the next day and going again, working or running, I should say, on tight muscles. That builds up into muscle knots, and then that of course can cause further injuries. So first of all, keeping on top of that has been really useful, but still later that year I was suffering a little bit with some bad back issues, and of course that's what knocked me out for the 2022 London Marathon. I went into it in the final taper week with a massive back spasm, and just like that the workout is over. I was reduced to haunching on my all fours on the pavement, just squatting down, lower back's gone. Completely locked up. I let out a squeal as I was coming around the corner for the second rep, and I just couldn't run the race that I wanted to. So then that triggered more strength and conditioning work. So on top of, after that calf injury, the foam roller, the massage gun, the spiky ball, we then got the upper body and core work. I do tend to neglect leg work, if I'm honest. I don't want to sit here and tell you otherwise, but I do really focus on getting a core workout in a week and an upper back workout in a week, and that has been consistent since that London Marathon 2022, or just post that. And then on top of that, this year in particular has been the year for mobility. So I have added those small tweaks in over the last 3 years, and this year, as I said, a bit more hip and glute mobility. That might start with sitting in a squat position back against the wall because I'm not the most flexible, but that just helps open up the hips. I'll sit in that for a couple of minutes and then I'll go into some pigeon stretches and just some general glute stretches just to open up the hips and the glutes, because that for me tends to be the area that gets tight first. If someone on social media talks about muscle balms, which of course I do, the Pure Sport muscle balm that I love to use. If someone talks about massage boots, I should say, compression boots, or any other magic recovery tool, just remember they are to be used in conjunction with your basic recovery needs, which your body needs. These are not to replace the basic things like a post-run stretch, a dynamic warm-up, things like using a massage gun on your muscles post-run, foam rolling it out, using a spiky lacrosse ball, doing strength and conditioning, doing some mobility work. All of those things are the basics that you should be doing, and then you can start to add in the other bits on top. And again, there's not been a more prominent time than this year that has reminded me on a few occasions to not slack off on strength work, to not neglect using that massage gun on those muscles, and to not be doing my daily mobility. That again has led to another consistent year for me, and I am so grateful. And spinning straight from a positive to a negative, having time off is okay. But that's a positive statement, right? Well, yes, it is, but of course I'm pulling that from the fact that I've just had time off post Abingdon Marathon, when probably I didn't need to have as much time off as I did, but I did because I thought my body deserved it. I put in a hard summer of training, and it's important to have that time to rest and reset. I'm saying that because back at the beginning of the year, I only had 5 days off post London, and the reality is that training block, if you were following me back then, I definitely can put my hands up now and say I made some bad judgments in terms of training and pushing through an illness I really shouldn't have done. I really prolonged something that could have been dealt with a lot quicker. I seemed to basically pick up a virus that was pretty strong post a really good race in January. And of course, what runs through my head at that time is, man, you are in the shape of your life. You might be a little bit ill. And my usual, I guess the way that I would usually work is if I get ill or a bit sick or have a cold, if the symptoms are sort of like head up, so it's just a bit of congestion, a bit of snottiness, a bit of sinus issues, I tend to just kind of easy run through it and gently train. If it's sort of like neck down where it's the chest and I'm a bit chesty, maybe have a chest infection or something like that, I tend to put a pause on things. The reality was it was neck up, and so I just carried on training as always. I'm not saying that's doctor's advice, that's just something that I have followed quite a lot over the years, and it stood me in good stead for a long time. However, my heart rate was extremely elevated, my resting heart rate was massively elevated, and my just sitting around in the day, my heart rate was nearly up to 100. But I did persist with training for a little bit longer before absolutely wiping myself out and having to have a bit of time off, but then again coming back too soon, and I should have listened to my body more. So there's a big chunk of the year there that, although across the 365 days I've definitely progressed and I feel great, there was a big red patch there that I'm really quite ashamed of in the way that I dealt with it. And definitely after having the time off after Abingdon and realizing that I'm now back into things after having 7 days completely off with no exercise, and I feel absolutely fine, that it's okay to take time off, and you're really not going to lose that much fitness, if any at all. And the third thing is having a positive mental attitude. Again, this all kicked in post London, and actually had been brewing a little bit for a while, because a few of you guys had left comments on my previous race video saying, Andy, you basically sound like you're talking yourself out of the race, mate, before you've even raced. And that was true. I was watching some of these videos and commentary back, and I was going, yeah, I'm actually being quite negative pre-race, just kind of like playing down maybe what I could run and maybe not having as much confidence in myself. And so what I really worked on post-London, getting back into fitness, is effectively going, look, do you know what? You've trained like this. Your training times are like this. You should expect to run this. Don't play it down. Go for it. And I've had basically a good second half to the year where even if I've fallen short in a race, I've gone there with higher expectations and a bit of belief in myself. And it's made the races themselves much more enjoyable. There's a lot less negative thoughts going through my head when I'm running. Obviously, that used to be the case. Now I'm like much more positive all the way around the course, whatever race it is, whether it's a 5k, 10k, half or full. I'm just a lot more positive about what's going on. And number 4 is understanding that whatever I'm doing now is going to have a massive impact on the future. And actually, again, a few of you have expressed this similar thought process in some of my videos when I've shared this thought itself. So when I do a training block and I'm approaching a goal race, I'm laser focused on the goal. I'm really excited to go and run it, but I'm also deep down really excited to take the fitness that I've gained from that training block and move it into the next block. A great example of this is I was looking for the workout that I did post marathon last year, and it was the first workout back, and it was 15 by 1 minute on, 1 minute off, and I've just done 20 by 1 minute on, 1 minute off now, and it was labeled back this time last year, 3rd of November, the fastest fartlek workout I've ever done. And I remember doing it and I was absolutely buzzing, and it was exactly the same route from the Green Gate. If you watch the training series, you know exactly what I mean, out and back on undulating trails. And I looked at the paces on that, and it came up around sort of like low 5-minute miles up to 5:10, 5:15 per mile. And there was one rep in there that squeezed into 4:59 per mile. This time around, I did 20 of them, and the first half were pretty much all 4:50s, maybe the odd 4:40. And then in the second half of them were in the 4s and half of them were in the 5s. The improvement over a 365-day period has been massive, but of course, when we're in that training block right now, we're only looking at a very small amount of time. So understanding that the impact of what we're doing now is going to have a huge factor on what we're doing later is a great thing to keep in mind. And just following on from that, at the start of the year, we did marathon training, which led towards London Marathon. And when I say marathon training, it was pretty standard marathon training, nothing fancy about it. We've shifted across to double threshold and speed training, so 1 double threshold workout a week and then in speed interval workout a week leading into the Saucony London 10K. So we changed up training styles there. We then went to double threshold and marathon training again for the Abingdon Marathon. So we started with double threshold training for 3 weeks, and then we locked into some quite intense, different to this style marathon training here. More workouts per week, more intensity, and we've now just run Abingdon Marathon. And now we're going into a phase where we're going to be attacking hills and strength work in the mid-range is what I like to call it, which means I'm kind of targeting those sort of like 10K to half marathon area workouts, but using a lot of hills and getting a lot of strength work from those hills leading up to the Hereford 10K, which is at the end of December. From there, we'll then kick into half marathon specific mode, and then beyond there, speed mode. So you can see that we're doing different blocks throughout the year, and everything is serving a purpose for the future. And number 5, another thing that sort of cemented my mindset this year, there's a time for racing and a time for training. Something that I kind of picked up on over the last sort of like 3 or 4 years, I guess, and really have homed in on that over the last 2, is that obviously shorter distances don't take as much out of you. You can race more during those training blocks, but of course, if you want to improve, sometimes you need to dedicate a period of time to training. As an example, this recent marathon training block, the first half, I had a couple of races in there and things weren't going too well. Mentality wasn't quite right. Locked in the second half, and then pretty much had a good 7 or 8 weeks, I think, where I did no races. Got to Abingdon in the shape of my life, because I understood at that point that as much as I wanted to drop in another race, and I was toying with the idea, deep down I knew that I probably shouldn't, and just lock into training, because that uninterrupted process flow week after week of just improving those workouts, just taking them up a level, is far more important than going and proving yourself out there in a race. And that's kind of more applicable when you're talking long distances. I do race more when it is shorter distances, and that tends to be because it's a bit more fun. But also I appreciate that if you stagnate in your race performances, I am more than happy to chop it off and go, do you know what? No more races. We are now stopping that right there, and we're going to lock in and train. The next race is in 6 weeks, let's say. We are just going to focus and train there. So absolutely, there's a time to train and there's a time to race. And the final thing, and a good place to wrap this video up, is to give yourself a bit of reflection time and appreciate the progress that you've made over a longer period of time. Again, I've had that moment this year, post Abingdon Marathon. It took a full week off, went on a family holiday, took the weekend off as well when I got back, and just started again on Monday. And in that 7-day period, there was a lot of time where I could sit back and think and be proud and kind of be mindful, which is where this video has basically spawned from. A good chance to reflect and basically sit down and go through everything throughout the year, appreciate the highs, appreciate the lows, appreciate the journey, appreciate the getting up early before the school runs, appreciate the dark mornings and dark evenings and the pouring rain, appreciating the heat that we've run in, just appreciating everything. And that has built up, as I've just said in the previous point to the last one, where we have that fartlek workout from a year ago to now, comparing the time, seeing the massive improvement that's been made, and understanding that all of that that's gone into it over the last 365 days has led up to that moment. Put a smile on your face and appreciate everything you've done. Trust me, stacking training block on top of training block on top of training block is going to get you to where you want to be. Even if it's baby steps, it's such a rewarding feeling. So give yourself a chance to reflect. That is my final piece of advice. And I'll throw the question out to you guys. What have you learned in 2024? Is there anything new that you've picked up that you thought, do you know what, I'm going to take that through into 2025 with me? Or have you stuck to your principles from last year and the years before, and they've really worked? If you have, let everyone know what they are down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you down there, and I appreciate you guys listening to me rambling on today. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.